All right, calling to order the October 24th Economic Development Committee meeting. Just a reminder, everybody, to please talk into your microphones.
All right, and we'll start with roll call. Alicia Ness.
Here.
Adam Royds.
Here.
Tawny is absent with prior notice. Steve Langley.
Here.
John Wallace.
Here.
Carol Noker.
Here.
Erica is absent. We have Becky here for the chamber representative. Dan Hartman.
Here.
And then Pat Luce.
All right, motion to approve minutes from September 27th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Alicia, I'd like to
Oh, yep.
make a quick amendment to the minutes in discussion items 4A.
Okay.
Discussion Committee Arts Program. I'd like it to read, Adam discussed partnering with Main Street to actually read, Smithville Main Street District. So I think we'll need an actual.
A vote to change that.
On the amendment first,
Yeah.
and yeah. So that was my motion anyway, so.
Okay, so first
To
motion
amend.
to amend. So we need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Now we go back to the regular minutes for the vote. Is that right? If there's not any discussion?
And I'll make sure to make a note of that on my proposal as well, to make sure that the language matches.
Yeah, so
But
vote on that, then
anything
we're
that
gonna
says
vote
Main
on it.
Street District, I'll change it to Smithville Main Street District.
All right, now motion to approve minutes from September 27th.
Second that?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then next on the agenda is introductions. We do have a new member with us today, Pat Luce, welcome. And then we have a guest, David Slater with Clay County EDC, he's the executive director. So if we just want to go around the room with your name and how long you've been on the EDC, or if you're a member rep. So my name is Gina Pate. I work for the city of Smithville as the assistant city administrator, and I'm the staff liaison for this group.
I'm Carol Noker. I'm the school district's rep, formerly the chamber's rep, and I am the real world learning facilitator for the school district.
Dan Hartman, Alderman Ward 1, so I'm the representative from the board, EDC.
Adam Royds, I've been on the board for about a year and a half, I believe.
Alicia Neth, I have been on the board since 2018, elected chairwoman in 2019, and also president of Smithville Main Street District and owner of Not Too Shabby Boutique.
Steve Langley, been on EDC 2 years.
Pat Luce, and this is my first meeting.
All right, and then John.
John Wallace, one of the newest members, been on the board for about 5 months.
And then on to reports, chamber report.
Okay, for the chamber report, we have 3 new members. We have Agent Joe and Associates. We have Ivy and Wellness Med Spa, and we have the individual member, Pat Luce, has joined the chamber as well. Since our last meeting, we've had 3 tremendous ribbon cuttings. We had one for T-Mobile, which is up by Jimmy John's up there. And then we have the Farrell Agency Farmers Insurance. It's downtown here, as well as the Ivy and Wellness Med Spa. For upcoming events, we have our Rise and Shine breakfast with the chamber. It's going to be on November 1st. It's from 7:30 to 9, and it's located this time at 169 Cafe. This month, it's going to be sponsored by Dream Properties Real Estate. That's Jennifer Justice. We welcome you guys to come in, stop by, have a cup of coffee, chat a little bit. Our next luncheon is going to be November 8th at 11:30. It'll be located at the American Legion, and it's going to be sponsored by Security Bank. Leo Slinker usually takes care of that every year for us in the month of November, and he does a special event just to honor the veterans. So if you know any veterans, you come to the luncheon, please feel free to bring them along because we'd like to honor them as well. Upcoming, we have Candyland Christmas. That'll be here before we know it. It's going to be on December 2nd. And I believe that's a Saturday from 1 to 5:30. It's going to be at the Smithville Senior Center this year. More information on sponsorship, things to do to get involved is going to be forthcoming. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then school district report.
I'm going to piggyback on her Veterans Day kind of thing for the chamber. The high school also does a veterans event on Veterans Day. So you can look up on social media for that information. If there's anybody who would like to attend or have somebody that they know would like to attend, they can get in touch with me. Or there is also information on social media as far as the sponsor for our student council that helps organize that. Parent-teacher conferences going on this week. I think the high school at least started this evening. So the kids are off Thursday and Friday. I still get to go to work, so, but good for them. And the teachers do work really, really hard. These next few days are a lot of work for them, meeting with a lot of different people and working in the evenings. So I think most of them get the day Friday, which is well-deserved. We do have a few events coming up as far as my real world learning events. And we did, just real quick, want to mention 2 of our elementary schools recently held here in the last few weeks career day events. One took each of the grade levels out to different locations, and another one did it differently in the school. But just really, I just love that they're getting the kids out and about and having those conversations with them. We do have a career day event coming up next week. It's coming up really quickly. Monday through Thursday, we have 160 students that will be doing mock interviews ranging in age from freshmen all the way up to seniors, 2 different classes that are doing this and 6 blocks worth. So I do have a few spots open if anyone has an hour or hour and a half to spare. I see David here is going to do one for me. Alicia's going to do one for me. So if anybody else wants to step up, I would appreciate it. Just holler at me if you're interested in that. And then we have a career day for the middle school coming up in December 7th. So just continue to look for those newsletters. There are always opportunities to get involved in that way through those.
Great. All right. Chairwoman's report.
Yes, I did notice today the Main Street Boutique sign is up, which is really exciting. We have next Monday at 10 a.m. Smithville Main Street District is hosting a holiday decorating get together. So we'll all meet at the gazebo and start decorating downtown so that everything is all pretty for the wine walk, which the wine walk is November 11th. That's a Saturday from 2 to 5:30. We did move it up a little bit this year. Small Business Saturday is November 25th, and we usually partner with the chamber to kind of do some fun giveaways or something on that. And we usually get some pretty cool swag bags from American Express that we can pass out to all the local businesses. And I did just want to clarify from last month, I wasn't here, but there was some talk about the Main Street changes for Smithville Main Street District. And we are still on a tier with Main Street. We're the aspiring tier. So we're not eligible to apply for awards at the state conference and receive certain trainings and grants. But we can still get those a la carte services. And they were really great to work with. It just got to the point where we couldn't keep up with the travel expenses that were required. But they did help us really get our feet off the ground with our organization. So I do thank them for that. That is all I have.
All right. And for the city staff report, the Board of Aldermen adopted the FY24 budget, and that starts November 1st. And including in the budget for the EDC, that would be related to this group, is we approved a $10,000 MOU with the Chamber of Commerce for assistance with comprehensive plan priorities, communication, and business retention efforts. And then linked in the staff report, you can see the full MOU with them. It included $5,000 for the Smithville Main Street District agreement. This is the final year in the full agreement. And then the South Overlay District conceptual plan, the one that Jack came to the EDC to talk about, that got approved with the budget. So we'll be looking forward to doing an RFQ process in that for the new fiscal year. And then we also had an approval of website enhancements. At the last board meeting, there was an extensive conversation about what the board would like to see with the website. So we will be moving forward with an RFQ process in early winter. And then part of that process will include a community survey of what the community would like to see from the website. A lot of the feedback was the navigation, and then keeping it more up to date with services that other cities provide on their website. And then an update on Streetscape Phase 3. So this project has been delayed. We had a bid opening and they came in very high. That's just the season we're in. So we are trying to take the scope back a little bit. That just involves meetings with Mark, because they are the ones who provided the funding for the grant. So we'll have discussions on that. So whenever we get updates, we'll let everybody know. Development wise, we approved on first reading an ordinance approving the Fairview Crossing Community Improvement District. So that's the one by Central Bank, McDonald's. And then that would be a 1% CID. Just sales tax. There's no other property tax involved. It is only sales tax. So that 1% would go back to any public infrastructure improvements in the project. And then approved on first reading was enacting a new ordinance pertaining to short-term rentals. And then we adopted a downtown sidewalk guidelines and use guidelines for the central business district. So when people have tables outside or little signs, it'll have an approval and permit process with the city. And then something we can talk about later with new business. I know David has his presentation, is just our next meeting, since we're going to be getting into the holiday schedule. And we would like to have a meeting with John Reddick, our city attorney for Sunshine Law, since we have a lot of new members. So we would like to at least have a meeting in November or early December. So we'll talk about that at the end of the meeting.
Question for you. The
Yes.
short-term rental first reading.
Mm-hmm.
What was the content of that?
So short-term rentals, that's your Airbnb, Vrbo. They've been increasing in Smithville. So a lot of cities have just been experiencing nuisance issues. So basically this just allows us to have some type of an enforcement in our city code. And then this went through the planning commission, and they held a public hearing on the matter. And again, this will be up for the board for second reading at the November 6th meeting. So if you have any public comment, you're welcome to go to those meetings as well.
Enforcement meaning restriction or just?
So let me pull this
I know
one up.
Kansas City restricted them, so I just didn't know what model Smithville was tending to follow.
So it does limit a little bit as the number of on any given block. So say the whole block wouldn't be Airbnbs, or if it was in an apartment, there are restrictions on that.
Gina, could you please ask the members to use their microphones when they're making comments, because I can't hear them.
Okay. Make
Thank
sure
you.
you speak fully into your microphone, please. All right. And then I'm going to share any other questions on the staff report. Okay. Share my screen. Do you want me to do the slides?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Actually.
Okay.
Keep it there for a second. All right, David Slater, Clay EDC. And I've got to tell you, 3 years ago, I was doing bank recons. I was the CFO at a bank, and this opportunity came up, and I said, only if you cut my salary by about $20,000 a year. And so they obliged. But honestly, my bank was clean. There was no reason for me to leave. I was very comfortable in it. Small banks never get a 1 rating by the FDIC because of the IT situation. I was there about 10 years and it took all 10 of those, but we got a 1 rating when I left because it was just something that was a challenge to lock it down. But this opportunity came up, and when you're 62 years old, 3 years ago, and they say, let's do a 180 with your career change. I'm not going to do it just to sit in a seat. We did it to make a difference. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll find out that we have been making a difference and we continue to make a difference. And when the next person gets in this job, a situation that was kind of a little bit of a mess has been straightened up, and we're going to go full steam ahead with this county because the people are coming. People are coming because of our schools, because of our law enforcement. And whether we're ready for them or not, they're coming. So let's get ready for them, right? Okay, next screen. So my first venture in economic development was in 2010. I'd just been elected mayor a couple of years earlier. Oh, I'm sorry. I was the mayor of Pleasant Valley 36 years ago when I was 28. And I did 4 years. I took 18 years off to raise my kids, and I'm back. But my first EDC economic development thing was a Ford plant. In 2010, the Ford Motor Company was doing a realignment of their businesses, talked about closing down their Clay Como plant. We had legislation in the state of Missouri. It didn't get heard, didn't get passed. And so, and if you ever talk to me, you'll know how much I adore my parents and think that everything I've got is because of my parents. And they knew the speaker, the president of the Senate. And so they gave me his phone number. I called him up, Charlie Shields. I said, Charlie, can we do this? He goes, here's what you need to get done. We got it done. I turned it over to pros, but the Ford plant's still there. And you think about that, there were 3,200 employees at the time. Now we're pushing over 7,500 people. Each of those jobs is 7 jobs, ancillary jobs. You talk about the people who drive the trucks, drive the trains, but supply, the suppliers out there. We're talking 50,000 jobs. What a blow to the economy if we ever lost that plant. We didn't lose that plant because a lot of people pulled together and because of my parents. Okay, next screen. But anyway, that was a letter from a handwritten thank you from the president and CEO of Ford Motor Company. So you think, here's a guy in charge of this $1 billion operation. He takes a couple minutes out of his day to write the mayor of Pleasant Valley a little thank you note, but I framed it. All right. So anyway, when I did my last 14 years as mayor, I worked with 3 Kansas City mayors, and go ahead and hit the next screen. The first one was Mark Funkhauser, who co-married with his wife. And everybody says, well, Funkhauser didn't do a whole lot. Funkhauser created the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. And if it wasn't for that, I'd just been the Pleasant Valley mayor and never done anything. But the Metropolitan Mayor Caucus is Kansas City's made up of 4 counties, Clay, Platte, Jackson, and Cass. And we would get together and figure out what's best for the entire metro. So go ahead. And so when I first got in, as mayor of Pleasant Valley, the board opening came up to represent Clay County on this group, and they put me in about, what was it, in 2009, I'm sorry, in 2013, I got to run the joint. And what we started doing when I got in charge was the mayors would meet annually with all of our legislators, both the House and the Senate. Let's get a legislative agenda done that we can go to Jeff City with and be proud of and work together. And another thing we did, if you looked on the right side of that, I partnered with the people in Kansas, and we had a meeting of the regional mayors, and there was more than 1.7 million constituents represented in that room. And it was good. We had a second meeting, Eagles took over and disappeared. But the deal is you can work together when people want to work together. And we did a couple of good little bi-state things. Go ahead and flip that to the next one. So in 2016, they give out an annual award at the Mid-America Regional Council to one person for their leadership. And because of what we were doing with infrastructure, with getting the mayors together, they gave to me. Next one. So the next mayor is Sly James. I adore Sly James. Go ahead, next screen. Without Sly and Joni's his chief of staff now. They're partners in a business, Wickham James. But without those guys, there's no $80 million bond issue passed. You don't have the streetcar. You don't have the convention hotel. You don't have new airport terminal. And the opposition to the airport terminal was led by his predecessor, the next mayor, Quentin Lucas. And so those were all things we had to overcome to get that new terminal. But Sly was a great partner to have. You want to flip that over? Second economic development thing I worked with Sly on. We had the border issue where Kansas is poaching businesses from Missouri and vice versa, and there was no tax benefit. It's just dumb as can be. We had an agreement, and we sat down, we present to Governor Nixon. Governor Nixon agreed with it, and it did not go well with the governor. I'm sorry. Hold on, I got to look at my notes. Brownback said no. So anyway, it went down. Are you leaving? Oh, right before I get to make fun of you. No, we're going to get on Carol. No, we will. But no, what happened is we had this agreement, and it didn't work. A few years later, a couple years ago, Governor Parson, Governor Kelly took basically the same agreement. And that's what we're working on. But it was getting the people in the room together to talk, because that had always been lacking. Again, it's regional. Go ahead and flip the. So what happened next is Sly formed. We took what was kind of a hodgepodge thing of St. Louis and Kansas City mayors, and we brought other people together. Then we brought Sly in, and he organized us. He's an attorney, got us a 501c3, and he led us for the first couple of years. And then after that, they elected me to be the statewide president. And what we did was we put together an agenda, just like we did with our legislators around here. And if you probably can't read that, but what it says is, you'll look at that, it's nonpartisan. We're sitting in a room with mayors who probably vote Democratic, vote Republican. We were sitting in a room with mayors who are urban, suburban, rural. And we worked on this agenda. There's not a partisan issue. There is not a social issue on here. It's just getting down, getting work to what we can get done to make it a better state. How much time is, and how many people vote because of somebody's stance on whatever? And what does that do to the bottom line? How many jobs does that create? But that's what dominates our government right now. It didn't with the mayors. And so every week we had different mayors on all these areas, but they would report back to me, and I'd send out a weekly email blast out to 500 mayors and say, here's what you say to your legislators. And it worked. We are no longer the only state with that prescription drug database. We have a statewide 911's coming. If you're not familiar with it, we have a statewide 988 now, and that's what you call it's a mental health hotline. If you don't know that, remember that, tell your friends that. If something's happened, you dial 988 and there'll be somebody to answer the phone. You can't drive across I-70 right now and get 911 service all the way through, but it's coming. And it's coming because of the infrastructure we put together, the mayors, on this 988 thing. Rural internet, that's going to happen because of the COVID money. It's happening right now. And I know Mayor Bowley's very involved with that. Court reform, it was something we did not get, but it was an overreaction to Ferguson by State Senator, oh my gosh, Eric Schmidt. And now he's our U.S. Senator and didn't get my vote. And because right now it handcuffed our police officers. And that needs a fix. The next one is Wayfair. Wayfair is something where if you buy something at a brick and mortar company, then somebody in town makes an investment, puts a building up there, buys inventory, you pay sales tax. All right. If you pass your use tax, then you pay it on internet purchases. But until Wayfair got passed, and we were one of two states when we started this, and we were the last state to get it passed. But Wayfair is simply this, that if you did not have a presence in Missouri, and you bought over the internet, you didn't pay the taxes. And it's like, what's the logic behind that? And all these other states figured out before we did, but the mayor's pushing. The mayor from Columbia was the genesis. He pushed that and got it through. But you go on through MoDOT funding. I can pick up the phone right now and talk to Patrick McKinney. He's going to take my call, the director of MoDOT. And mental health funding, God, it's so important. I mean, it's just sad what's happening right now with our mental health, and it's just not being addressed. We had a couple of fixes: low income housing, economic development. I spoke to Liberty, or they had there was a couple of state reps in there. I let them know. I said, it's almost embarrassing to go down to Jeff City and have to play defense against economic development. I'll show you a slide later on that'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. But that's it. So go ahead, next one. So because of regional leadership, they gave me a MARC award, which I was the first person to ever get that was still in office as a legislative person. And that was in 2019. And last year they gave to Ed Eiler, who was the mayor of Overland Park for 25 years, and he chaired the Johnson County Commission. But the people down there, nobody in this room, some of you guys know who I am, but I'm just out there doing a job. I could care less if anybody knows who I am, but stuff's getting done, and it's getting done because we're able to pull people in the same room together. Go ahead, next one. So I told you we had this agenda. The governor loved our agenda. We had a weekly meeting with weekly. We had a monthly meeting with the governor. It was the Missouri Mayor's United Board, along with the people heading up those line items. And so the governor said, Slater, invite people down for luncheon at the mansion. So I did. And it was just pretty cool. The fact that we've got that relationship. I can call, he'll talk to me, and he sees me in a crowd. It's like, damn, I'm not a big donor, but thank you. But the governor's he's just a good old cattle farmer who barely got out of high school, joined the army, grew up, and now he's smarter than heck. But probably never set foot in a college if I had to guess. And he's good friends. So go ahead, next one. So next one is Mayor Lucas, and go ahead. You guys get my newsletter? If y'all don't get my newsletter, you might want to sign up for it. But anyway, if you see that, it doesn't show because of the things on there, but I'm a racist. And so when that came out, he went through a guy named Clinton Adams. If you're familiar with Kansas City politics, there's a group called Freedom Incorporated. And I was supposed to just go cower in a corner, but I called Clinton, and Clinton and I have been having lunch every month since that time. And our little group's growing to the president of Freedom and different things too, because they get it. And there's so many issues. If you ever hear about Kansas City and I talk a lot about Kansas City, it's half the population up here. It's 40% of Kansas City's population is in the Northland, 51% of the land mass. We'll get some other stats later on. But it's very important to make sure that you got this. But Kansas City for years and years and years was getting beat 4-9 down at City Hall. No, we're going to fix that. And we'll come up right now. The one we're working on, the big issue is KCATA, area transportation. And yes. And so it's gone to hell. And it's the free fares is a big chunk of it, but it's not the first thing. Johnson County dropped out, Liberty dropped out, Independence dropped out. And because I've got this relationship with these guys, we've got a meeting going on early next month that's going to bring all those parties back together again, Wyandotte County. And we've got, I believe, the right people in the room to take a first step. Let's fix this. What went wrong? What do we have to do to fix this? Because we have got to get people to and from jobs. And you look at the developments coming up north, the data centers won't be a whole lot of people. And usually if you work at a data center, you can afford a house in Smithville or Kearney or something like that. But if you're working the airport with all those new shops, the new terminal, how you get people up there, how you get them to Harris, how do you get them to all these places we're opening up. And so we need a good bus system. So we're going to be working on that. But if you don't get my newsletter, it's on the website, or leave me your business card and I'll get you. So go ahead. And so now we're going to get into transportation. If you look at that, I got to go back to my notes because I can't read that. In January 2012, they told me we cannot get this interchange fixed in Pleasant Valley, but by October of 13, I got a yes. And what that did was we learned a lot of lessons. There's a total transportation policy committee. I represent Clay County municipalities on there until I gave a seat in April, being mayor. And we got some stuff done. And go ahead and flip. And a lot of it's not the brick and asphalt yet. I mean, asphalt and concrete, but it's coming. But during that time, we got the Bond Bridge done. We got the I-35 at Pleasant Valley interchange done. We got the 152 highway done. We got the 291 and I-35. If you come south of here, you got the 169 highway at 96 and 108th. And everybody says, well, those just need interchange. No, those need really nice interchanges, because if you look at that, there's a development going on called Twin Creeks, which is basically 169 over to I-29, 152 to 435. And it's going to have 70 to 80,000 people in there. And you know what those folks are going to do? They're going to be really close to Smithville. But I wanted to make sure that we had good interchanges there. So we did. You go on if you go down 435, like you go on the Royals game or something, or a Chiefs game, that's all been redone. And the Buck O'Neill Bridge, it's going to be super cool. And I want to tell you a story about Buck O'Neill Bridge. MoDOT said, here's $100,000. We're going to repair that bridge. And we said, no, it's got to be replaced. They said, it's a $225,000 job. Okay. And they dared us to raise the money. We did. And 40 million that came from regional cities that said, all right, we'll give up a good chunk of our funding so that we can get this thing done because we know how important it is. So every year you get like $14 million out of the fund that builds these bridges. For 4 years, they gave up all but $4 million of that funding so we could get this bridge done. And that's talking about people from Cass County, Jackson County, all across the board. So we get that. And it's going to be real cool. But it was a bunch of people working together to get done. Next slide, please. And so working with this, we've been able to build a coalition where you can pick up a phone. If you go left or right, Ron Akiapole is the Director of Transportation at the Mid-America Regional Council. Then the lady next to him is Valerie McComb. Valerie at the time was chair of the Northland Chamber. Why you got the Northland Chamber and EDC event? Because we want to do things as a Northland. I'm sick and tired of doing things as Platte County or Clay County. We got to do things as Northland. We're going to be so much stronger. Our presiding commissioner next to Jerry is Patrick McKenna, director of MoDOT. And of course, Congressman Graves will be here on November 2nd. If you're not coming to Kearney, see if you can fit in your schedule at 9:30. He's going to have a ribbon cutting there. It's good to know that we're out there doing things. But you look at the priorities on that thing. We've got, when your people go to work downtown, they have to go through the split, the I-29, I-35 split. So there was a study done. It came back and it said, there's no traffic problem there. I said, give me an engineer who's driven that damn thing before. And so now we've got the studies going on. There's, of course, 2 major studies, but we want to get that done. What affects y'all up here is 92 highway. If you've been around the Northland for a little bit of time, 30 years or so ago, Berry Road was the east-west connector. And there was not a whole lot of activity in Northland, but it was a 2-lane roller coaster. It's fixed. 92 needs to have the same thing happen to them. It's got to be leveled. It's got to put 4 lanes in there. It's got to connect Excelsior to the Fort, because if you don't think that population's coming up here, you're wrong. And you think, well, it's so far up north. It's 142nd Street in Overland Park. It's also 4 miles north. When you cross 435, once you cross the Buckle Nail Bridge, cross 435, it's 4 miles to 92 highway. And it's silly not to be trying to get this thing done. And I keep calling it the 92 highway. It's a Sam Graves highway, because that man can cut a check and get it funded. And that's about the only way we'll get it done in my lifetime. But you got to start making the plans. All right. And there's other improvements too. The main one is Pleasant Valley Road, because if we get that road done, that is a straw that stirs the drink in this whole United States of America, because you got to keep Pleasant Valley good. Whatever. Go on, next screen. All right. So we also do SBA lending. And what that is it's pretty simple to explain, but it's a lot more complicated, or else I'd be doing it. If you want to get a loan through the Small Business Administration, a bank has to underwrite 50% of it. You have to come up with 10%, and the SBA will do 40%. Now, why is that important? Well, a lot of people just starting a business don't have that collateral, don't have that the money in the bank or whoever to sign off on. But the SBA, if we can convince them to believe in you, they'll do that. If you're any bankers in the crowd, banks hate to make restaurant loans. Absolutely hate it, because they're so hard to stay in business. When they go out, it's 10 cents on the dollar. But with the SBA, we're able to get some of those loans done. And you think about it, what's happening? Well, we'll get into this a little bit later, but in North Kansas City, the Merriman family just bought 100 acres to hopefully put a ball field down there. And you think about it, that's a lot of businesses. And a lot of those people lease those businesses. We have been meeting Karina, our loan officer. If you know somebody wants a building, have them call Karina. But Karina and I met with the people from North Kansas City, and we can't talk very deep into this, but you bet your rear end that I want all those companies to come someplace in Clay County. Okay, if they got to leave North Kansas City, and it's good for the county's tax base, but more importantly is this: if you're used to going to work every day in North Kansas City, and all of a sudden you relocate to Overland Park or Lee Summit, look at the drive. But how about if they come to Smithville? How about if we take some of those and Gina gets them a spot up here in Smithville? They go to Kearney or they go to Liberty. But what we want to do is bring those folks here. And we just think this whole deal with the Royals is just going to excel our growth. And maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see what happens. I just like it. But anyway, SBA lending, we got it. Next, education. And this is where I was going to get Carol. Y'all, if you're not coming to do those mock interviews or taking an intern or something like that, please consider doing it. It's so important to develop our workforce. And you think about it, a kid walks into Smithville schools in kindergarten. 13 years later, they graduate high school. That's 13 years of public education. And you know what it costs a year? About $12,000 a year per student. So we're making about $156,000 investment per student. And if they come out of there and they say, Mom, Dad, I'm taking a job in Austin, Boston, or do you want fries with that? We just lost that investment. And so it's our job to bring those jobs to keep these kids here. And how do you bring those jobs so they don't go to Silicon Valley or go to Austin? We'll figure something out. We got something going on later on in the slide presentation, but it's so important to get involved with these kids. And NEBA's Northland Education Business Alliance, that's where we put business people and educators in the room. We mix them all together and hopefully come up with a workforce. Northland CAPS, the Northland Career Center, we're going to talk about that in just a second. But we're very involved with Maple Woods Community College and just trying to get our workforce ready, making sure kids don't fall through the cracks. Okay, if you're not going to college, go to military, learn a skilled trade. Let's do something, okay? And we can do that, but we need everybody's help to do it. Go ahead, next slide. So I'm going to go through some slides real quick about what's going on. This is Pleasant Valley. It's a little development. If you're familiar with Pleasant Valley, there's a quick trip across the street. It's a lot that has had a trucking company on it for years. Now it's a bunch of Ford vans. But I was not going to leave Pleasant Valley mayor until we had a contract on that. We got a contract, and it's going to be a nice little money maker for the city. Next one. We go and look at Smithville, okay? You all know about the growth here, okay? Nobody can say there's nobody coming north of the river. This is last year's stuff that Mayor Bowley presented at our State of Cities address, but 58 single-family residents, you think that's going to slow down? Only if we can't build them fast enough, because people are coming. You guys got great schools, and the law enforcement here, my gosh, I think our best asset is what goes on in Jackson County. People can get away from that, and the property's so much prettier and better than if you go to someplace over in Kansas. Go ahead, next one and this is Liberty, and the one I want you to look at, and it's covered right now, but you look at it. No, I'm sorry, on the far right, the bottom two lines, these are what Liberty has done with their TIFs. And if anybody ever says TIFs are a bad idea, just show them this slide. But you look at property taxes before all that development, $90,000. All right. Property taxes with the developments, including the TIFs, is $35 million over the life of the TIF. And so what do you want? And when you do that, you're not only creating the property tax, you're creating jobs, which can go into your shop, which is going to go into who's ever shop and buy product. They're going to get a house built. They're going to be one of those 58 housing starts plus that come in next. And so let's just, again, I with the state legislators, I hate going to Jeff City and playing defense on economic development, because I'm not out there trying to pollute the world. I'm just trying to create jobs, and TIFs are not a bad name when they're done properly. And it's y'all's job to make sure they're done properly. And you've done a nice job. Next one. Okay, this is Lawson. Little Lawson, look what they're doing out there. 148 new home subdivision going in. They're getting a grocery store for the first time next. And there's Kearney, 19th Street interchange I mentioned earlier, but they passed their use tax, and they passed their use tax because they made a promise to their voters that they would do certain things with it. And you're going to see a lot of nice amenities coming into Kearney because their residents said, you know what, if our brick and mortar people who made that investment, they have to charge sales taxes, so should the internet. And because we got the Wayfair thing done in the state, everybody's paying that same sales tax. Next one. All right, so Excelsior Springs, right down 92 Highway. Molly and oh my gosh, Melinda just knock it out of the park up there, and you're going to see some benefits of that. But is it $32 million at that bottom line? I can't read that far anymore. But the top one, that transportation grant, $32 million. Nobody got that. The entire state got maybe almost that amount. But those two just knocked it out of the park getting that grant. So it's really important to apply for these grants. Oh, I guess I can look right here. But they're putting sidewalks in this part of their town that didn't have sidewalks, and they got $32 million of government money to do it. and they struck out the first time, but they kept after it. Go ahead. Next one. North Kansas City. If you've not been down there, I call it the newer, safer crossroads. You go down there, they've got all kinds of activities going on. They've got these little craft breweries, got little shops, and it's just a fun little walkable community. Put your bike on the back of the car and go on down there. Next. All right, Gladstone. This is something that your schools should look into. That early childhood education was a Hobby Lobby and a price chopper that were just drains on the economy because they weren't turning things, and a lot of problems. The school district bought them, turned into this early childhood education. So now 3-year-olds go in. So when they go into kindergarten, they're right up there with some other kids who might have a family that really, really works with their kids. But it's to give everybody the ability to. Mayor James, again, one of my favorite people, he had a saying that says, you learn to read up until the 3rd grade. And after 3rd grade, you read to learn. So what I'm saying is that, and what he said is that if you don't know how to read by the 3rd grade, you're lost. And we need to make sure that our kiddos get that. And we want to do that in Clay County. Next one. Okay, so this is Kansas City, and it's a permit thing. And here's also the data centers. Data centers are huge. It's going to be more, and there's other ones now that these are coming in. You'll see, I was not supposed to release it, but the Business Journal did today. Google's coming over by Worlds of Fun. We've got other ones looking to put spots up here because we're going to get it. I told our board, I said, I want to be data center central. You've got Silicon Valley, right? Why don't we have all the data centers here? But if you look at Kansas City's housing starts, 60% are in Clay County. This is Kansas City proper, 20% are in Platte County. So 80% of Kansas City's housing starts are in the Northland. And why? Because of our schools, because of our law enforcement. And I think people will see that and they're starting to reckon, and there's been a couple battles, but it's all good. Just flip it. Okay, Metro North Crossing, right down the street from y'all. That was David and Dan Horn. Dan's a son, he's on my board. And those guys took Antioch Mall and turned it into Antioch Crossing, but that was a go-to spot 30 years ago. So was Metro North. They let them go away. The Horns took those and built them back up. Now they have Sam's Town. I can't wait to see what they do with Sam's Town down there at 435 and 210. But it's just helping these guys. You don't think that's TIF? Do you think those guys just put their own money? No, it's all there, and it's going to be a really nice little spot to help. It's right across the street from that Twin Creeks I mentioned earlier. Next screen. Okay, Northland Career Center. Right now it's in Platte City. You go there to learn skilled trades. They turn kids away. There's a couple of things that we would love to have kids learn that's not there. So that's a $60 million building. How do you pay for a $60 million building? So we'll go back to that deal with the governor. When I first started this job, we had a virtual career fair. We were hoping to get 500 kids on there because it was during COVID. And when it was all said, we had 2,500 kids. Governor got wind of that. Governor said he wanted to come up and present, or just tell everybody how cool that was for his workforce development. Governor Parson keeps it very simple: infrastructure and workforce development. And we're trying to do the same thing here. But Governor Parson came up, and I was fortunate enough to be able to be the host. And I had a green room for all the superintendents to meet with him so he could talk education. Well, Brian Noller, I don't know if anybody knows Brian Noller in this room, but you will. Brian was in charge of the Northland Career Center, and this is his vision. I said, Brian, get in that room. He said, that's for superintendents. I said, Brian, that's my room. Get in there and tell the governor your story. He did. Governor loved it. And so now we've got 30 million of our $60 million cost courtesy of our state legislature. And that money could have gone any place, but it's coming. I'd like to say to Clay County, but it's right across the county line in Platte County. But it's a Northland thing. Kids from Smithville will be able to go there. The kids from Liberty will go there. North Kansas City schools. And if you think about it, it's a good golf shot or 3 of mine away from the county line. So it's right there. So we're if anybody's got an extra $25 or something, or somebody just won the lottery, might have a couple million. We'll take those donations. We got to raise 30 before the end of December of 24. Go ahead, Gina. So, of course, there's our gauge. And you don't use a thermometer when you're talking about a skilled trades place, right? You use a gauge. And so that's where we're at. It's an old picture, but we still had a long way to go. So go ahead, next one. So why would an old guy quit a job he was very comfortable at, take a pay cut and do this? And it's because this is my baby. So we call it the 587 project, and it's the intersection of 435 and 152. You add them up, it's 587. Go ahead and flip that. And so what we want is this: the 7 amenities: entertainment, sports, park and rec, special retail, restaurants, civic opportunities, Class A office space, housing options. Where do your kids go when they graduate high school? Where's the graduation ceremony at?
Yeah, it's in Smithville now. We used to be over in Independence, but it's Smithville now.
Where do you get 6,000 people into a building for graduation, or you cut it off?
They only allow a certain amount of
Each student gets so
per
many,
student.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's max 2 to 4, I think.
Yeah, so where do you cut off at 2 people?
Exactly.
Okay, so the Northland's got 400,000 people. It's time we start acting like it. Okay, why don't we have an arena? Independence has 110,000 people and an arena. St. Joe right up the road, 75,000 people and an arena. Oh, we're okay sending our kids a Hy-Vee or saying we can only bring 2 people to our graduations. No, not anymore. Let's get this fixed. And there's people, I went through some serious politics on this thing so far, but people have been exposed, and there's certain people that I just have zero respect for through this process. But we're cutting through that, and we're gonna get some things done. And the thing too, oh, I've got company in town. Are we going to Johnson County, or are we going down to the plaza? Why? Why do you want to cross a river or state line? Let's have those restaurants here. And go ahead, go to the next screen. Let's have those ball fields here. And the first thing you got to think about when you build is getting rid of the water. And there was water up there. And I said, that's an asset. So you go to San Antonio, you get the river walk. It's not a real river. This is our creek walk, but we'll call it a river walk. All right. So when you come down there and the plaza's got Brush Creek. Yeah, it's a sewer. And they know that. That's why you don't have restaurant tables right up next to it. But we can do that. We can make those people come across a state line or across a river to come here, because we're going to have something super cool. And they say, well, how can you build something like that? There's a glut of office space. Well, I get that. But the people who are optimistic say, well, how many places are 10 minutes from downtown or 15 minutes from the airport terminal, and more importantly, 50 feet from a golf course? There's 2 golf courses there. Dan, you're in real estate. It's pretty cool to have a house right next to a golf course, right? You pay extra money for that.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and now what about a business? We can put businesses right next to one of these 2 golf courses, and those are going to be able to draw these hopefully these world headquarters where our kids can go get a cool job and not have to go away. We want our kids. We don't want our kids here, but we want you want your grandkids here, right? So, and that's all part of the package deal, but they need to have that job, and hopefully we can get them here with the 587. Go ahead. All right, so we looked at putting the Royal Stadium there when they were thinking about moving. Didn't work, it's too far, yada yada. So anyway, we punt on that. But next screen, this one will work. And I know I'm not going to get 100% of the vote, and everybody said, well, it's going to Kansas City. Well, a week ago I was in the email exchange with the president of Royals. The county commission's still negotiating this thing. It's going to be tough. It's going to be expensive. But let's look at this. In this whole world, there's 30 Major League Baseball teams, 30 teams in this entire world in 27 markets, because 3 cities have 2 teams. Clay County could be one of those markets. And earlier today, I was presenting this to Liberty, a little bit different, but Megan is a tourism director there. I said, Megan's job is going to be make sure that when the stadium, not if the stadium gets built, that those people, they come to Smithville, like they shop downtown Smithville. They're going to the Liberty for the Square. They're staying in our hotels. There's plenty of things to do in Clay County if you're here to visit. And let's just use this as an anchor thing. We've got this. We've got Worlds of Fun. We can bring all kinds of people in here that are going to fill your hotels, going to fill your restaurants. And yes, it's going to cost you, but the prestige with being one of those 27 markets, the jobs that will come with that. Yeah, I just saw something in the Business Journal today online that talks about how Independence is so upset because the amount of economic impact it's going to have when that stadium leaves Jackson County. I'm sorry, the sports complex and goes downtown or goes to here. But the Northland can do this. The mayor says, well, they don't have the juice. Well, I gave the numbers that match what they're getting from Jackson County, and we can pass that. And that's all part of negotiation, so I can't get into that. And we have 3 of our county commissioners working to negotiate that deal. But we got We got almost 400,000 people up here, and it's time to start acting like it. We got more than our fair share on infrastructure, but there's more out there that we can go get. We've got the United States congressman who chairs the infrastructure committee for the whole country. And so let's keep tapping it. He gets tapped all the time by me to build 92 highway out. And 92 is not the only east-west, but if you look at it, you got 69 highway runs up through Excelsior. It starts in Riverside and cuts through. You got 35 running to Kearney. You got 169 running up here. You got 29 running to Platte City. You got 7 running to Leavenworth. But where's the east-west connections? They're horrible. And there's another one down south, the 291 that turns into Cookingham Road. That's another one on our project list. But let's get this infrastructure done, or at least get out so when the developers come up here, they can pay for it. But we have got to start acting like we're a player, because we are. And if we don't, it's going to sneak up on us. And so that's it. Questions?
I have one, just because you had mentioned golf courses. Does the Northland Clay County have any PGA level, like courses that would qualify for a PGA tour?
They played the ladies at the National over in Parkville before, but not the guys. I don't know what that would take, but it'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Well, the reason I'm asking is one of my best friends, he's the executive director of ticket sales for the PGA. So out of Ponte Vedra, their headquarters.
What's
So,
his name?
His name is Brian DiTucci.
Yeah, I think I know his father-in-law.
So
Yeah.
He came up here and he was in Overland Park because that's where the tour was.
That
So
was a junior circuit though, right?
I'm not quite sure. That's why I was just curious.
It would be. Okay, so right up here, you've got the 2 county golf courses. Why aren't we privatizing those and doing like you say? I mean, could you imagine if the PGA Tour had to stop here? What that would do for Smithville if the Outlaw or the what's the other one? One of the 2 courses were PGA. Yeah, if they were PGA worthy, what would that do for his economy? I mean, but the counties, they're content, because it's just like your Smithville Arena. Mayor Bowling, I talk all the time about, let's get that arena privatized, because we're missing a boat, and some that's going to be that we just have to work with these folks, but a lot of it's just let's figure out what's going to make the county commission say privatizing Smithville Arena would be a good thing. Maybe selling off one of those golf courses or making a PGA qualified would be a good thing. I don't know if it's based on length but I'm sure some of those ones over in Europe aren't real long drives. I'm not a golfer. It's
I
not
can
my.
find out.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thank you. Let's do it. But anything that we can do that's going to bring people to the county and have them spend their dollars here. It's how you go. And you keep. I don't want to get in politics or anything, but I do all the times. But Mayor Boley, if he gets reelected this next time, gets to chair the Mark Board, which will just be huge. And that's up to the Smithville voters. But it would be a nice little feather for the community if the Mid-America Regional Boards. It's made up of 9 counties of municipal leaders, and he represents Clay County, and he has worked himself into a position where I think it's 5 years from now he would be the chair of the Mark Board, which would be a very, very nice thing to have. So, and when I gave my TTPC seat, I gave to Mayor DeLong in North Kansas City, because the streetcar's going to have to come to this ballpark. I want to make sure he's on that seat, but I gave my highway committee seat to Mayor Pogue. One reason, 92 highway. I want Randy Pogue to be, and if you don't know Randy, you should meet him. Randy will get things done. What I love about, I talk about Excelsior all the way over to here. You've got 2 young mayors that are just, and I say young because I'm old, but they got vision. And this is going to sound very sexist, but you've got 3 city administrators who are female. Where do you find that? And they're just making things happen. And in North Kansas City, Kim Nakahoto could have been the city administrator, but she didn't want to do it. She wanted to raise her kids. And so Clay County, hopefully there's no glass ceiling with our government, because this is pretty cool. And those ladies are moving this county forward, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, this one over here is president of everything.
Are you?
I'm chairwoman of this and then president of Smithville Main Street District.
Okay. And
Well, boss lady.
Okay, so I said we do that weekly newsletter. I write that weekly newsletter. But when you have events and you get that newsletter and they're not listed in there, and it's gonna be something that you want to draw people into your community about, give it to me. So that wine walk's in there now because I got an email. That wasn't from you, was it? It was from you.
I think it was from Erica.
Erica,
I emailed
Erica,
her today.
Erica,
Yep.
yeah. But thank you. And because we want to promote, I want people to spend their money in Clay County. I don't want to say, oh, cool, there's this festival going on in Leawood. No, let's come up here.
Yep.
And
I agree.
David, I thank you for your vision and your passion. I was a guest on a podcast today, and it made me go look back at our vision statement that was in our strategic plan. And it reads, as Smithville builds its future by embracing growth, encouraging commerce, and cultivating its natural surroundings. So the key words there was embracing growth and encouraging commerce. And I believe you're doing that for our Northland. And we need to take that energy and that passion and continue to do that here.
yeah, let's do it. It's a team. I mean, Gina, we kind of let this slip a little bit, but the Clay EDC has a monthly luncheon where we invite all the EDC pros in from all the cities, and Clay Coma doesn't have an EDC person, but they've got somebody who represents them. Same thing with Pleasant Valley. And we want to give them in room so we can work as a team. How can we help each other? I mean, if Gina has a something going, nobody better step in and try to kidnap it or take it away. Let's help her out. And that's the whole genesis of I'm just a connector. If you want me to come in and do your call reports or all your bank regulation stuff or clean up an audit, I can do that stuff. But this EDC stuff, I'm learning as we go. But we do have connections, and that's been proven to be very helpful, and we're going to keep pushing that.
Yeah, I appreciate your energy and passion and having an impact, long history of an impact here in the Northland. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Hey, David, I have a
Yes.
question. What would you say to a person who said, I moved to XYZ small town because I don't want the growth, because I want it to stay small? How do you help them to understand why it is so important?
Well, I just asked them when they bought their house in Smithville, was it on somebody's farm? Because I look out my back door, my house backs up to a wide open field. I could walk, my kids and I used to hike from my backyard to Berry Road and past one farmhouse. It's all subdivided now, and the growth's going to come. If you want your own spot, a lady friend of mine, she went out and showed me her backyard and said, my neighbors and I pitched in. We bought 15 acres behind our houses just so nobody would come up here and do that. If you want to keep that backyard looking like it, buy the acreage, okay? Buy it from that person because it's coming, or vote against a good school board, or go out there and commit crimes or do something that's going to draw you back, because it's every one of you live on somebody's old farm. I'll guarantee you that. And there's not one person in here that doesn't have a house that's used to be a farmland. And so that's what I would say, and keep moving on out if you want to, because the growth's coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I got to tell you too, North Kansas City Schools, when I first got this, and when I got my marker where they picked it up on it, but North Kansas City Schools were way below everybody else in their student assessment, and they had a strategic plan, invited me to come into it, and we worked on some stuff, and now it's a destination school district. It's the second largest school district in the state, and it's because people saw a problem, they addressed it, and now it's fixed. And I didn't want that black hole in the middle of Clay County, and it just happened. I had people leaving Pleasant Valley so they could go to put their kids in Liberty schools. Now people move to Pleasant Valley because they want to put their kids in North Kansas City schools. People move here because they want to put their kids in Smithville schools. I know he's new to the job, but I've known Mark Maurer for since I took this job, so 3 years now, and he's a good guy. He's going to do really good. He's home too, right? He's a Smithville kid that grew up here, and now he's going to run your school district, and you're going to love it.
No, you're right on. I mean, the strength of communities is the strength of the school district, and that's proven not only in the Northland, but you look at Liberty, you look at Kearney, you look at Smithville, you look at Platte County. It's people are moving there because they want their kids to be educated there. So
It's important. And again, every kid's got that, passion, every kid's got that trade that nobody else has, let's find that spot for them. Let's help those kids find their sweet spots. That's why I'm asking you to go do these mock interviews, hire an intern, go review somebody's resume. Let's get these kids ready to go because it's huge. I like bean counting too, but this is different.
I think if no one else has any other questions, you can hang out here if you want to listen, or if you want to go run through the rain to your car, that's fine too.
If you don't mind, I'd like to stay for the whole meeting. Invite me
Sure.
up anytime, all right? And I don't have to give a presentation. You can just say what's going on here, like the Riverwalk. We asked for county funding. And if we get that county funding, part of it's going to go help you guys do a study to get this Riverwalk the right way. I met with people in Kearney, that 19th Street exit. There's concerns about what's going to happen there. I said, well, let's get a study done at the Mid-America Regional Council. We get this county funding, we're gonna help you fund it and definitely get you letters of support to come up with the rest. But hell, it's all one county, right? Let's get this thing. We'll be abutting each other soon, real soon.
Okay. Okay, should we move on to the community art program? Yep.
You want me to jump in? So previously, it's been the last couple meetings, once we had Missouri Extension came in, talked to us a little bit about public art. It's something that we've discussed that we wanted to do, but we've never done it. So there is no framework. There is no process. So this is kind of a start. And then obviously, Gina, this is just my version of it. I'm sure the city has their own like nomenclatures or how they like things written and put and I'm fine with that. Like if this gets redone into like a format that eventually would go on to the economic development handbook. But I think this is what I put together that seemed to make sense for me. Obviously, we can talk about it. So the phase one of a public art project would be the EDC votes on the site selection and the scope. Then that recommendation we brought to the Board of Aldermen and the mayor for their feedback, whether or not they're supportive or not. Obviously, we won't have like hard numbers because we have to know whether or not there's any interest in the site that we're picking and the scope of the project. Then we would coordinate with the Missouri Extension for resources and their subject matter expert. I don't believe it was the same gentleman. I think he said it would be somebody else that when the time was right, we could contact them and get that subject matter expert to start helping us out. So once the scope and the site selection looks good, we could move on to phase two. That would be, we'd promote the proposed project for community feedback. So maybe surveys or put it on a website, schedule a public hearing to receive the community ideas for a design. Then after that, we would prepare a call for artists using those subject matter expert recommendations. I assume it's probably something similar to like a bid, but might be a little different. Then we would want to debate, discuss, vote on the design and the artist, prepare budget for design proposal and artist compensation. And then final design and budget would be brought to the Board of Aldermen for approval. Phase three would be the project management phase. Once all the strategic decisions have been done, we could use the Smithville Main Street District as our project managers. So they would, EDC would delegate the coordination and execution to the Smithville Main Street District. Smithville Main Street District would be the ones to acquire the supplies. Main Street would be the one to track budgets and reimbursements. Smithville Main Street would be the one to coordinate with the city for work times. Obviously, things might have to be shut down. And then that group would be the point of contact for the artist. And then any changes to the design or budget would need to come back to the EDC for approval. And then any of those changes would then need also to be approved by the Board of Aldermen after we did the approval, because we're just the recommendation body. So that was just a quick little three-phase. This is my proposal for our first inaugural kind of public art proposal. It's on the back here. Location would be the public restroom right over here, specifically the south-facing wall towards East Main Street, which would have the most visibility for traffic and pedestrians walking down the main strip. So my justification and rationale, this project would be the first time the Smithville Economic Development Committee initiated a public art project, unless I've only been here a year and a half. Has this been done before?
No.
No, okay. So in my view, a smaller incremental approach will have lower costs and complexity. This is just from my own experience, 20 years working in the federal government, from the DoD to Department of Veteran Affairs and now to the Federal Aviation Administration. And one of the things I've noticed consistently is the bigger the project, the bigger the problems. Cost overruns, issues with contractors, etc. So I'm a big fan of just going slow and low, like braising meat. You know, we take our time with it, figure out the process. Taking on a smaller, more agile project will allow the EDC to refine the process as we move through it. After we're done, we can conduct an after action review. And then we can incorporate the refined process into the Smithville Economic Development Programs and Incentive Policies. I put the link on there. So everything is already in there. This would be added to that so that future boards would have a framework and a guide to work with. And we're not just leaving it to people who've done it and now they have the knowledge. We want to make sure that we're capturing institutional knowledge and passing it on. After action review would review the following each phase of the project, what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, why was there a difference, and then what can we learn from this? And then all of that would be incorporated into the final policy that we then put forward to the Board of Aldermen to add into the economic development package. And this project would satisfy requirements from the 2020 Comprehensive Strategic Plan. Everything we do has to tie back into the Comprehensive Strategic Plan. And this is ST 3.4, explore public art opportunities such as murals in Smithville's historic downtown. And that is my proposal. So I'm opening it up for discussions or concerns.
So Gina, I like the framework here. Do we need I noticed in our agenda that EDC to vote, do we need a formal motion then to kind of establish the framework, or what are you looking for here?
So to vote on the location and then establishing the framework, because again, you guys are the recommending body to the Board of Aldermen, so we would need final approval from them as well. So just making sure we have group consensus on the plan and then the location.
Well, I think to kind of make this formal, I'd like to make a motion to the EDC that we adopt Adam's framework that's outlined here to start. And I know we'll probably need a motion to vote too, but to establish the framework here of what he has. So that's my motion.
I'd second that.
Do we want to have any discussion about the phases at all? Does anybody have any questions before we vote, or?
Let everyone know, like, I've never done this before either. So if you do have concerns, like I want to hear them. I want feedback.
I think the phases would be subject to adjustment as we go.
Yes.
They're not written in.
No.
It's a fluid document.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
a sense, and that if it has to be translated into the city's process,
Yes.
it certainly be adjusted then.
And I assume that this was more of like a rough outline. Like none of this would be like written in stone. It's just we needed a way to start. And I felt like this was a good way for us to at least start, because it's going to take, again, being 20 years in the government, you want to do something fast, it's just not going to happen. So, there's a good chance that just doing that one wall could take close to 2 years. But if we refine the process and we now know about how much the costs are going to be, and if we could find grants and all those types of things, we could start moving immediately onto like the other walls and continually have public art projects kind of in the works if we can figure out how to do it quickly and efficiently and cost effectively.
Besides the public restroom, few walls that might be available, is there any other public building downtown as an option? I couldn't think of one.
No, mostly
No.
private.
Yeah,
That's what
mostly
I wondered.
private. The other ones would be obviously City Hall and then Senior Center.
At some point, a private wall could be
That I
an
think,
option.
yeah, I think if we can figure out what we're doing, and we do it like a couple years in a row and we get it down, then I think private businesses would feel more comfortable partnering with us to do a mural on their building, because they probably have no idea what to do, so they're not gonna be like, sure, just have
Yeah.
someone come and spray paint my building. But if we
Yes.
have like a nice process, I think that would help with their comfortability, knowing that they could come here, they get input for the design. And then obviously if it's a private building, we would probably want to weight that, like we want the private building owner should have a pretty large say in what's going on in their building. So it would probably adjust our process as we go along.
And then the Missouri Extension, that was their project that they're doing in Parkville in partnership with Main Street, in that alleyway. So they already have those kind of things in place for MOU agreements with the property owners. So that would just be something we would build into the process for a private building.
And I like the idea of starting up with a public site just because I think it nixes a lot of the possible people that might come up and say that, oh, you know, the city's picking winners and losers and stuff like that. Well, this is a public taxpayer building. Taxpayers are the winner. So that way no private business right now is going to benefit from anything that a taxpayer funded group is doing.
Well, and there's also nothing out there to say that a private business can't do a mural on their own building.
Yeah.
So it could get the ball rolling on other ideas that ends up being a real fun thing. And I think too, for the phase 2, the proposed project for community feedback, I think it'd be cool to think about maybe doing a contest for the conceptual mural. I mean, obviously we'd want to give the artist that we go with the freedom that they're creating, but I think it would be fun to get the community involved as far as voting for, you know, kids send in pictures of ideas they have, or schools, or, you know, just whatever. I think it'd be fun to do some sort of a interactive event for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really what public art's all about, is trying to get people interested.
Okay, so we have the two. Where's my paper? So we have the motion and the second to vote on the location. So now we just need to vote if everyone's in favor.
I think location and scope.
Yeah, I think it's so both.
Oh, okay, you're
What-
talking
what
about your
agenda?
phase 1. Well, I was looking at the actual agenda where it says community EDC will vote on
Yeah.
the location.
So the site selection would be the public restroom, the scope would be the south facing wall. So instead of doing the whole building, we just focus on the one wall for now, keep costs down, figure out what we're doing. learn
And
from
your
mistakes.
motion not limited to the location, it was the location and scope.
Right, I can amend that motion to make it kind of the selection and the scope of the project, so.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay, so first and second for location and scope, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
And so probably what I will do is put together a
Thank you,
staff
Adam.
report for the board, and just get any feedback on that from them.
And you can do whatever you want with this.
Okay.
This is like, you understand the intent.
Yes.
So like, as long as you understand the intent, she's a government bureaucrat as well. So that's how you play the game with with policies and memorandums. What's the intent? So you understand my intent. You can
Yes.
change it around any way you want to make it fit your
Translate.
formats.
Translated into Smithville speak.
Yes.
That's how it works.
Okay.
Government lingo, most people, why do you think people like go to a planning and boarding, you know, and most people are like, I have no idea what people are talking about, setbacks and all this other thing. You have to translate it.
Yeah, good job, Adam.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
Thank you.
Gosh. Do you want to do the updates on the plan priorities? Or is that, I mean,
Just if
basically the
anyone,
arc, is it-
that's just a placeholder, so if
Mhm.
anyone has any updates, they can mention them. If not, we can move on to new business.
Just quick question on bioscience. I understand what that is. Is there anything percolating on bioscience? I mean, we're talking about the animal health corridor between Manhattan and Columbia, I assume. Is that what that refers to?
So that's just a priority that's called out in our comprehensive plan. So for industrial, it specifically mentions bioscience, instead of, really heavy industrial that was mentioned as, we don't want to have
Right.
that as a priority here. So it's really just to target those niche industries. Like we have the medical marijuana manufacturing plant, so more of those kind of, bioscience.
An example I think would be, I can't remember the exact name, but the pharmacy mixers, like the ones that mix special.
Compounding pharmacy.
There you go. Thank you, boss lady. Yeah,
Worked
like
at one.
like the compounding pharmacies, those are like bioscience,
Right, okay.
you know, like stuff like that, or people that make plastics for IVs. I think all of that gets rolled into that bioscience label, light industrial.
I think like, yeah.
So on the industrial side, I talked with the owner today of the building, used to be where Diversified Metal, it was, I believe. There is a significant amount of square foot available. Diversified Metal had their auction I think it closed today to auction off. They're going to close their business. And so just keep an eye out. It's industrial space. I believe he said 18 or 19,000 square feet is available. So that would be great if we've got anybody that's looking for warehousing or
Where is that located?
Just north of Sonic.
just north of Sonic. Yeah.
Oh, that building. Oh, right there. Okay.
Yes.
Roddy Studios in the front.
In the mower.
The
Mower
small
plant.
business, yeah,
Oh.
there's some other businesses in there, but that the small engine repair is there, but
Any restrictions on the use of that building?
I believe it's industrial, which would meet, we just have to make sure that any of the industrial zoning requirements, but I don't believe there's any restrictions, no.
Okay. That's interesting. I don't have anything else as far as plan priorities. I just know that we mentioned pinning down the date for our next meeting, moving it to early December to combine November and December, and trying to figure out if we can get John here sooner than later for our training refresher on sunshine and all of that. Did
Are
you have this?
Thinking the first week after Thanksgiving or the first full week of December?
Either one, just based on your availability.
I'm available till December 17th, and I'm going to Florida.
Nice.
Forever.
Yes, so that would make it, do we want to go, normally we'd go on a,
So we normally go on a Wednesday at
Wednesday.
6, so we could do November 29th at 6 p.m.
I'm good with that.
that's fine with
That
me.
works for
Good,
me.
that works for me.
That work?
Okay.
John, on your schedule, does that work for you on November 29th?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
You
That's cool.
6 or 6:30?
So we,
Go back to 6:30.
do you want to go back to 6:30 or keep 6?
I don't care. I'm fine with staying at
I'm flexible.
6.
I'm all right with 6.
I'm
It's
on
getting
s-
dark. It gets dark out there. early now. You know, I gotta,
John, are
I
you
gotta
good
be in
with
bed by
6?
9.
6 p.m. is great.
Okay. We say 11:29 at 6 p.m. here at City Hall.
Yes.
Okay, then motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, okay, I guess I was making the first. I was
It
just
sounded
asking.
like-
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn and Steve will make the second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
David.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.